There are so many things happening in the AI space with new tools and updates coming in. But I'm pretty sure you might have already heard about MCP or Model Context Protocol. Now, if you don't know what is MCP, MCP is a standard way to connect your LLMs or AI models with external data sources to perform actions and to get better responses. MCP is a game changer, and even OpenAI has integrated MCP to start using with ChatGPT, and now Google is also looking forward to integrate MCP with Gemini models. So in this video, I'm going to explain you what is MCP or Model Context Protocol in simplest way possible. I will also show you how it actually works, what are different components in it, what is MCP Server, what is MCP Client, how do you connect each other, and lot more. Lastly, I will show you a demo of how you can use Kubernetes MCP Server to manage applications on your cluster by simply giving prompts to AI agents. This is going to be an amazing video, and I'm pretty sure you will have complete understanding of what is MCP through this video. So make sure you watch it till the end, like this video, and also subscribe to CloudChamp. Let's go. Before I start explaining you what is Model Context Protocol and give you more theory about the architecture, components, etc., I want to show you something which will help you understand MCP completely. So in my local machine, I have this Postgres database that includes information about different products like laptops, smartphone, headphones, which country have bought them, so like USA, Germany, India, Japan, etc., and also people who have actually bought these products. I want to get information from this Postgres database. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT and ask it a simple question, which is, tell me about all the purchases made in USA from sales table. Since ChatGPT is not directly connected to my Postgres database, it will give me a vague answer or ask for more context. So it says, to help you get more information about your purchases, I'll need to know the structure of your table, which means this ChatGPT or LLM model don't have context to my database. Whereas if I go to my VS Code, in my VS Code I have this GitHub Copilot which is using Claude LLM model. I can also use GPT if I want. And the most important thing here is this JSON code. This JSON code is adding Postgres MCP server in my LLM so I can run commands and fetch information directly. So you can see it's also running right now. And if you look at this tools here, this Postgres MCP server is able to run a read-only SQL query. So in my Copilot, I'm going to run the same prompt. I'll say, tell me about all the purchases made in the USA from the sales table. Since this is connected to my Postgres, it is going to start working and run the query for me. So it says, I'll help you run the query. And if I click on this drop down, you see this tool is from Postgres MCP server, and it is going to run this query for me. When I click on continue, so you can see now I got all the information about the purchases made. So 10 laptops were sold at March 31st, 15 smartwatches on April 2nd, Mr. Beast purchases 2 iPhone, Elon Musk purchased 1 iPhone, Barack Obama purchased 2 drones, all these things. And you can also confirm by looking at the data here in my Postgres database. So now I hope you have an idea of what MCP protocol is actually doing. MCP protocol is connecting your LLM models with your MCP servers. So this is the client, this is the server, and it is connected to each other through MCP protocol. Let's try to understand what's happening here. So on one side, we have our MCP clients, which are our LLMs that are connected to MCP servers. In our context, it was Postgres. So these clients are connected to the MCP servers using MCP protocol. So you can also integrate GitHub with your LLM. You just need to add as an MCP server. This GitHub repository contains a list of all the different MCP servers. You can find server for Brave, for GitLab, GitHub, Git. You can also scroll down to find servers for Slack, and you have Chroma. You also have Grafana, lot more. In the demo, we use this MCP server, which is the PostgreSQL MCP server, which will read only database access with schema inspection. When I click on this, here you can also see how this MCP server was created. So you can click on this TypeScript and see all the different functions it can actually execute, which was running a query. Now, if you scroll down in the README section, you can find the tools. So it can execute this tool, which is the query that will only do read-only SQL queries. If you want to install this MCP servers, you can do it either using Docker, or you can also use it using NPX. For using Docker, you need to have Docker desktop installed, and for using NPX, you need to have Node installed. In our example, we used Node, so you can see the same kind of JSON code here, which is using Model Context Protocol. Server is Postgres. I show you another example of GitHub. I have GitHub MCP Server also installed in my Copilot here. So if I click on this tools option, you can see I have Notion. I also have GitHub Server, MCP Server, which can create file, update file, search repository, create repositories, and lot more. If I show you a demo right now, if I run create a new repository with the name new MCP repo. Here we have MCP server and it is also running. So if I show you, this is my MCP server which is running for GitHub, and it is going to run this tool So the tool says create repository, and this is going to go ahead create a repository for me with the name MCP Kubernetes. So I'll click on continue, and you will very soon see that the repository will be created. So you can run a prompt in this MCP client to execute tasks on different MCP servers. I hope that makes sense. So you can see I have created a new repository called MCP Kubernetes, and if I go to my GitHub to see all my repositories, very soon I will see a GitHub repository being created all through MCP. So this is the one. How amazing it is, right? This way, using MCP, you can perform different actions by just simply running a prompt. I hope now you have a clear idea of how MCP server works, how do you integrate it with your LLMs to provide context and to fetch proper information. Let's go to the official documentation. This is the official documentation for Model Context Protocol. According to this documentation, MCP is an open protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to LLMs. Think of MCP like a USB-C port for AI application. So here you have a protocol, and using MCP protocol you can connect all kinds of different servers. Previously, before MCP, you have to have different integrations, and when using different integrations you've had to face different problems. But now you have a standard way using which you can integrate any kinds of third-party tools. So using MCP, you can connect it with your Devops tools, you can connect it with your databases, you can connect it with your Gmail, anything you want. Now let's try to understand the technical architecture. In this documentation here, you have the general architecture for MCP. As we all know, the host is the MCP client or the LLMs, which are Claude, IDE, tools, etc. So we had Claude IDEs like VS Code are clients here, and then these are connected to MCP servers through MCP protocol. Once they are connected, these MCP servers can fetch information from local data source, which could be a Postgres database, which could be a GitHub repository, which could be a Kubernetes cluster, anything. So this is the architecture where the MCP client, which is an LLM, is connected to an MCP server, and this MCP server is getting or fetching the information depending on what tools are available here. So if you look at different MCP servers, there are different tools available. As we know, for Postgres, we had a tool which was to fetch or run only read-only queries, whereas in GitHub you have different tools here. So this tool or this MCP server can create or update a file, it can push files, it can search repositories, it can create repositories. Depending on what functions or what tools does an MCP server have, only then LLM can perform actions on it. But if you look at this key components here, the MCP servers have three main key components, which are tools, resources, and prompts. Tools, as we all know, are different functions that an MCP server can perform. Tools are executable functions that an AI can perform. For example, sending an email, querying database, creating GitHub requests. These are all the tools or the functions that an MCP server is capable of. Next important thing is resources. Resources represent the data source, which could be a database record, a file, API responses, etc. This provide more context to the model, and they are generally read only. Lastly, you also require prompts. Prompts are the messages that you put in the LLM models, which are then given out to MCP servers. So prompt templates guide the interaction between the AI and the external system. So altogether, I hope now you have a clear idea of what is MCP and Model Context Protocol. And if you want to read more about it, you can read it from the Anthropic documentation. Anthropic is the company that created Claude and also this MCP protocol. Alright, now let me show you a demo of how you can use Kubernetes MCP server and perform actions on your cluster by running prompts in your LLM models. So this is the Kubernetes MCP server. So if you read at this GitHub README section, you can see for this server, you need to have kubectl installed. You also need to have kube configured, and you need to have access to your Kubernetes cluster. You need to have Helm installed as well. I don't know why, but that's okay. So features are all these features. You can connect to a Kubernetes cluster, you can list pod, you can describe pod, delete pod, etc, etc. Let me show you a demo. So to start working on this, you need to first install this MCP server. So I'm going to be using this npx option here, and let's copy this. I already have this inside my VS Code. This is VS Code Insider. You can also run the same thing in Claude. All you need to do is put the JSON code of the MCP server you want to use. So you can see in Claude, I also have some tools here. This is from the MCP tools. You can see here, this is the Kubernetes server. It's not running right now. If I click on start, it will be running. And if you see here, these are all the different actions that I can perform. So these are the actions, which are configuration, view, event list, etc, etc. Let's try to ask it a question. So I'm going to ask a question, which is to list all the pods I have right now. Now, since we have MCP server running, it is going to go ahead and start or run the command for us, which is to list the pod. So you can see this is to list all the Kubernetes pod in the current cluster for all namespaces. I'm going to click on continue, and this will fetch all the pods for me. Right now I have 4 pods of Nginx server running. So if I show you, you can see I have 4 pods of Nginx deployment, and that's what it is saying. It is saying I have 4 replicas of Nginx deployment, pod named Nginx, da 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 da. Now let me try to deploy something right in front of you by simply running a prompt. So I'm going to say create a deployment of 6 replicas using Redis image, and also expose it using node port service, and give me the endpoint. So now this MCP server is going to execute the prompt that I given, and if it has all the tools necessary, it will also give me the correct response. Okay, so it's going to run this query or run this command. This is the manifest file for creating a pod of name Redis, and let's go ahead and click on continue. You can also see it is using node port 30379 is the port. So using this LLM model, I can now perform anything I want, and you can see now. Let me verify the deployment is running properly and get the endpoint information for you. Okay, now it has successfully executed everything. Let's see if I have the pods here or not. So if I say kubectl get pods, I should be able to see Redis pod as well. So these are all the Redis pods here. So if I want to say, let's say add some CPU limits to my pods. So now it's modifying the deployment to add CPU limit and request. Adding CPU limit and request is the best practice to make sure your pods are not using more than what they want. So when I click on continue, it is going to go ahead and do this for me. And now you can see deployment requirements have been updated. So without me actually going and running any command, I just need to say this to my LLM, and all because MCP server is installed, it can do anything for me. Isn't this amazing? Using MCP servers, now you can perform all kind of operations by simply running a prompt in your AI model. I hope this video helped you understand what is MCP and how it actually works. If you have any questions, any doubt, feel free to let me know in the comment section. And if you want me to create a video of automating different DevOps tools like Terraform, Ansible, etc. using MCP servers, please let me know in the comment section and I will create a video. Make sure to start using MCP servers to automate your DevOps workflow, and also share your learnings on LinkedIn. Thank you and have a good day.